Good morning, campers.
Good morning.
So nice to be with you today. Who's excited about the Bill of Rights? Well, that's great. That's great. But if you're not excited about the Bill of Rights now, that's okay. It's not okay if you're not excited in an hour from now, because after we go through this, you should learn a lot and be very excited about it. So it's great to be with you today. The Bill of Rights came about because of the 1787 Constitutional Convention. Where was the 1787 Constitutional Convention? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Yep. And it endured all summer long, and there was a great desire for this to work. There was no guarantee that the states would come together. There was no guarantee that there would be an agreement. And the most respected gentlemen there, the ones that were the most universally respected, George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, their greatest hope was that there would be a unanimous agreement at the Constitutional Convention. Now that did not quite happen, because at the end of the convention, one man stood up, and that's this man right here, Colonel George Mason from Virginia. And he said, "I cannot put my hand to this document. I cannot sign the Constitution." Why was that?
It was treason.
The reason he wouldn't sign it, good guess, thank you for trying. The reason he wouldn't sign it is because there was no Bill of Rights. No Bill of Rights. Washington, well, we know he's Washington, and who's that? That is Alexander Hamilton. Washington and Alexander Hamilton said, we don't need a Bill of Rights. We've written the Constitution, and the Constitution inherently recognizes that we're created by God, and therefore we have our rights. But Colonel Mason disagreed. Now, just think about that for a minute. Would it be very easy to argue with George Washington and Alexander Hamilton? Was that something that you would do? Would you say, George Washington, you're wrong? Would you do that? Well, that's what Colonel Mason did. And Colonel Mason was the author of the Virginia Declaration of Rights, previous to this. And he essentially said there has to be a Bill of Rights. So they agreed at the convention that there would be a Bill of Rights, but it had not been written at the convention. Okay? And most of the delegates did sign. There were 3 that did not. And there had been a few more that had departed early. But basically, pretty much everybody signed. So now, in the first Congress, the Constitution had been created, and the first Congress was elected, okay? And there was I'll call him a young man. He would be old to you. But he was considered to be a young, respectable gentleman. And his name was James Madison of Virginia. And he was the first congressman from Virginia. Now, what's this building right here? Yes. Good guess? Not correct. Yes. Oh, another good guess, but that's not correct. Yes. It's not the Lincoln Memorial either. Yes, Harley? Oh, another good guess. Jefferson Memorial, not correct. Yes? Oh, I thought you had your hand up. No, behind you. Yes?
The National Archives?
No, boy, this has stumped all of you. Yes?
It's in New York City.
Oh. She said it's in New York City. She's right. And it is called Federal Hall. Say Federal Hall. Federal Hall. Okay. And, and so when James Madison, in that first Congress, was meeting with other members of Congress to draft the Bill of Rights, the meetings that he was going to were at Federal Hall. Okay? Remember, Washington, D.C. hadn't been created yet. Yes, it was created in the Constitution, but the buildings hadn't been built. The property hadn't been purchased. They were in the process of doing that. The White House hadn't been built yet. Okay, so they were actually meeting on what is called Manhattan Island, New York City, on the southern end in this building right here, Federal Hall. Okay? Where in Manhattan is Federal Hall? Anybody want to take a guess? Yes, Wall Street. It's right by the New York Stock Exchange. So, here are the Bill of Rights. Now, the Bill of Rights are called the Bill of Rights, and they are also called the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. It's the same thing. The same thing. Sometimes people don't realize when you're talking about the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, you're also talking about the Bill of Rights. Okay? And we are going to discuss a few controversies within the Bill of Rights because not everybody agrees on exactly what they say. This is the document right here. Okay? That's how it looked like. They had good handwriting back then. Documents were printed by hand. Okay. Let's look at number 1 together. Okay? And we're going to read it together. All right? Ready? Okay. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Okay? The first 5 words, in some respects, are the key to this, only within the context of what other people have tried to describe it later on. So let's read those 5 words together. Congress shall make no law. Okay? And then there are those six items listed. Okay? You are going to hear people tell you that the Constitution creates a wall of separation of church and state. Okay? Hey, who's heard that before? Okay. Almost everybody. If you haven't heard it yet, I guarantee you somebody will tell you that. And the problem with that is you're going to hear it from a source such as a television show, and millions of people are going to hear that. I'm telling you this, and you're going to hear this once here at Camp Constitution. You may hear it from another instructor. Maybe Mrs. White or another class will cover this. But this is the truth, okay? And the truth is that it's that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, okay? Does the word wall appear in the First Amendment?
No.
Does the word separation appear in the First Amendment?
No.
Does the word church appear in the First Amendment?
No.
Does the word state appear in the First Amendment?
No.
Okay. So, other than that, they have it all right. Okay. So, what is abridging the freedom of speech? What is that? Yeah.
Abridging basically making less of, or basically tightening it off.
Yes, right. To tighten or to make less of. And basically, what the Founding Fathers are saying is that anybody has the right to publish. At that time, communication was verbal, by mouth, or by newspaper. or book, okay? The printed page, and that's all they had. But it goes beyond that to what we have today. Of course, electronic media and visual programs and so on. The press is it was called the press because at that time the paper was hit by a press with ink, so it was called freedom of the press. Okay, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble. Okay, so we've seen a lot of assemblies in the last couple of years. Have all of them been peaceable? No. Do people have the right to take a brick and throw it through a store window? No. Do they have the right to throw tables and chairs at the police officers? No. That's not peaceably assembling. However, we do have the right to gather together and state our opinions. Okay? And then we have the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. You know, in New Hampshire, it's also in the New Hampshire Constitution, since we're in New Hampshire right now. I'll mention the New Hampshire State Constitution. There's an article that talks specifically about being able to petition the government for redress of grievances. And about 10 years ago, because that had been totally neglected, the legislature created a committee to hear grievances. And then after 2 years, a new group of people came into the legislature and they abolished the committee. So, but you will hear the words, the wall of separation of church and state. The fact that Congress shall make no law was basically saying, Congress cannot tell you that you've got to be an Episcopalian. Congress cannot tell you that you have to be Baptist. That's what it was saying, an establishment of religion. Okay, now we're going to go on to amendment number 2. Let's talk about amendment. No, let's read it together first. Okay. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay. Now, there have been arguments made in recent years. Oh, the Founding Fathers were talking about the National Guard. Okay? Okay. Is that true? No. Okay. Does anybody know when the National Guard was invented? It was like around, I think it was like 1907 or something like that.
157 years after the Second Amendment was written.
So they were not talking about the National Guard. And what does a remember, we use words today sometimes differently, certain words, than the Founding Fathers used when they were alive in 1787, okay? To make it really obvious, marriage, okay? Marriage as the original marriage, a man and a woman, okay? Today, people would tell you something different, okay? So a well-regulated militia, what did that mean to be well-regulated in the 1780s? Yeah.
Control?
Yeah, control, balanced, really. In other words, a well-regulated militia, in other words, so that the people could defend their town and shoot straight. That's, you know, I mean, if somebody's coming into your house, you want to shoot the intruder, right? You don't want to shoot Dad. Okay? That's what they were saying here. Being necessary to the security of a free state. Okay? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? Okay. Okay, so number 3. Let's read this one together. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. You know, and as I was going through this presentation, preparing this presentation, it dawned on me that of the 10 Bill of Rights, this is probably the only one that the government is not violating on a regular basis. So the government cannot show up to the Soon family home and say, you know, by the way, we're going to put these soldiers in your room. Not going to happen. Okay? Not without the consent of the owner, anyway. Okay? Okay. Let's talk about number 4 here. Okay? All right. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Okay. So, this is why the police cannot just go into your home. Right? I mean, if police are there to enforce laws, right, which is what they're supposed to be there for, why can't they go into your house? Because it's a violation of your privacy, because you have the right. Yes? Well, yes, you're right. It's being violated. It's being violated by the SWAT team. Yeah. Yep. Yep. You're right. And so that includes. So you know, to be secure in a person, your body is not subject to be searched, but except with a warrant. Your papers, which today, I'll get to you in a second. Today, papers would include, for most people, a laptop or a computer. Yeah, what did you want to say?
So when people are arrested, they're searched. You said you can't search a person without a warrant. But what if you see someone committing assault randomly in the street and then they search them for a weapon?
Well, in that case, yes, it's because that's not an unreasonable search. Okay, so if someone appears to be committing a crime, yes, the police can search that person, but they can't just walk up to you on the street and just pat you down. Yeah.
What about in the case where the government has a suspicion that a person may be having contraband in their house?
Excellent question. What if the police believe that there's contraband in the house? And that's where the rest of this comes in, okay? They need a warrant. They need a warrant to be issued, okay? And they need probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, okay? So that's the proper way to do it. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
If the police have a search warrant, does that mean they can come into your house and search your house without having your permission?
That's right. Yeah, they can go into your house with that warrant. Yep. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, the point I want to make out of this, because we saw this happening back all the way through from 2015 all the way to 2017 with President Trump's government. People were swearing oaths and affirmations before before judges to get warrants to search and seize, but what they were swearing these oaths and affirmations on was false. So is there no repercussion for a person? So I can just go up as a police officer, swear before a judge that I believe something is happening that is not really happening because I just want to put pressure on a specific person because I like them. And then when it comes down that it was false, I should have repercussions against me for doing that.
You should. There should be a repercussion. There should be a repercussion for a false,
Yeah.
for false allegations.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
But
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
what happened.
What if somebody's in your house who is planning to take you as a hostage?
Well, that's a criminal act. If someone breaks into your house and tries to kidnap you, you're talking about kidnapping, or taking control of your house. Yeah, yeah. But no one's supposed to do that. That's illegal. Okay, so on these warrants, let's go back down to the, after it says supported by oath or affirmation, let's read this part together. And particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Okay? So, a warrant must describe where you're looking for the contraband. Okay? A warrant doesn't grant the police to search everywhere. It has to describe the particular address. Okay? That's important. And it must describe the person or the things to be seized. Okay? So if they're looking for one thing, but they find something else, some other contraband, that's not admissible in court. Okay? Okay, any other questions before we go on to amendment number 5? Yeah.
Your car, like, when you search your car, I mean, like, do they have to have a warrant to search your car?
They should have a warrant to search your car, yeah. Yeah. Unless, see, with the car, if you're doing something wrong, the police, and if the police have a reason to believe that there's something wrong, they can search without the warrant. But they have to have probable cause. Okay? And what did you want to say?
Are there typically cases where there's a warrant for someone to search the house or a person where it's not specific? Does that happen often?
It probably does, but it shouldn't. Okay? Because the government today does a lot of things improperly. So I would believe that probably somewhere some judge is not doing it correctly. Yeah.
So if the house isn't owned by you but you're renting it, do they still have to get a warrant?
Or permission from the owner of the house.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you still, is a cop allowed to search a car if they suspect anything suspicious in that listing?
They have to have a reason to believe. They cannot just pull you over for speeding and then begin searching your car. Okay? But if you do something that indicates that they think that there's something wrong in the vehicle, they can search the car. Yes?
When police are searching the house, if they break something, then they break the door down, and you turn out to be innocent, there's nothing in your house, do they end up paying for that, or do you have to?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know who pays for it, but I know it happens, and it's not right, and they should pay for it. I don't know if they do though. Okay. Anything else before we go on to number 5? The Fourth Amendment is it's Rand Paul's favorite amendment, And it might even be my favorite amendment too. I love the Fourth Amendment. Okay, I think there was one more hand. Yes.
The right to peacefully assemble. Because in Boston, the mayor Wu, they call Mayor Wu, she put a vaccine in, makes you can't go anywhere in Boston, even children.
Yeah.
Without the vaccine.
Yeah.
So there's a group of protesters protesting in front of her house. She didn't like that at all, so she made a city ordinance.
Yeah.
You cannot protest in front of my house. With certain
time frame.
times. No, this is a right. You can be peacefully assembled.
It is a right. It is a right.
And they got arrested.
Yeah.
Or shackled.
Yeah.
Peacefully assembled.
Yeah. So that is an example of how the government violates our rights, and they were enumerated. These rights are enumerated, and they still violate them. So you're correct. But maybe they'll be held accountable, and maybe Liberty Counsel or some really good attorney somewhere will get that overturned, and then they'll be able to protest outside the mayor's home again, provided it's on the sidewalk. So yeah, it took years to get the right to put the flag up. And the Supreme Court agreed with that 9-0, thankfully. Okay. So, number 5. Let's read the Fifth Amendment together. Okay? But we're going to break it up because this is the longest amendment too, by the way. Okay? Don't be overwhelmed here. All right? No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on a presentment or an indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces, or in the militia, when in actual service time in or public danger. Stop. Okay. So, what is an infamous crime? Bad. Thank you. That's the shortest, simplest answer. Yeah. Yeah, mass murder. Someone who is known for their crime. That's infamous crime. Okay. Let's go to nor, where we left off. Nor. Okay. Nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Okay? Shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Stop. Okay. This is actually in 2 amendments. Where it says, subject to the same offense be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. We're going to get to that more coming up. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Who has heard the expression plead the fifth? Okay. So your right is you are not required to snitch on yourself. So, and anything you say can and will be held against you. That's where that expression pleading the fifth comes from. Okay? And if you haven't heard that before, campers, you will hear it again. Okay. Let's go down to nor be deprived of life or liberty. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall public property be taken for public use without just compensation. Okay. So, the government cannot take what's yours without due process. Okay? And I know it happens sometimes without due process. We've got to stick up for our rights. We've got to stand up for our rights. That's why it's important that you know the Bill of Rights. If you don't know your rights, you don't have rights. You have to know your rights. Okay? Public property cannot be taken for public use. Let's say we're in Plainfield, New Hampshire right now. Let's say the county, we're in Sullivan County. Let's say Sullivan County wanted to use some of this property for a new county complex. And, well, this particular here, Singing Hills Camp, some of the property is perfectly situated, and we need a new Sullivan County Courthouse, and we're going to take some property from Singing Hills to build a new county courthouse or county jail or county administrative building. Can they do that?
No.
They can. They can do that. But they have to give just compensation. They have to pay for what that property is worth. Okay? And that's what that last clause is. Nor shall public property be taken for public use without just compensation. That happened to a friend of mine where, yes, Mr. Mel.
Private property?
I may have mistyped that word.
It's private property.
I think so. In our constitutions, we should have it.
Yeah.
But I knew someone, and the town needed to build a road, and it went right through his property, kind of the remote end of his property, but they had to pay him for what that was worth. Okay. Number 6. Okay, let's read this together. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Okay. Now, do you think that these rights are recognized by the so-called United Nations International Criminal Court? No. Okay. We'll come. At the UN court, there's no right for the accused to confront his accusers. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen every time, but I'm saying that they don't recognize that right. Okay? They don't recognize the right to a local trial. So, if you're accused of a crime here in Plainfield, in Sullivan County, New Hampshire, you can be tried on another continent under the UN Criminal Court rules. There's no right to counsel under our Constitution. Campers, what does counsel mean?
Lawyer.
Legal advice, yes, a lawyer. Okay. There's no right to a speedy trial. So you can be put in a jail on holding and held for a long time. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Oh, okay, January 6th, okay. No right to a public trial. You know, if you are accused of a crime here at Camp Constitution in Plainfield in Sullivan County, New Hampshire, your trial will be at the county complex, okay? And the public can go in. Now, that doesn't mean everybody can go in because there's probably only so many seats, right? So the whole world can't go in. But that trial will be held in public. Not so at the UN International Criminal Court.
Well, I have a question on that, though. That has to do with international crimes. Like, for example, the war crimes that the Serbians committed during the Balkans conflict and that were put on Slobodan Milosevic. Those were international crimes. Those weren't crimes within their own nation. So, exactly how does that apply?
Well, how does what apply?
Well, I mean,
I don't understand the question.
we're sitting here saying that international courts don't recognize our laws, but then of course they don't recognize the laws of Serbia or Russia or Canada because they're international laws.
Well, what I'm saying is your rights under the U.S. Constitution are not recognized by these so-called courts.
Yeah.
So your rights, your God-given rights, and as specifically enumerated by the Founding Fathers, will not be recognized by the ICC. No right to be informed about the charges against you. Okay? So let's go back and read number 6 again. Number 6 is a very overlooked amendment. You know, you hear about the first, the second all the time, the fourth. In all criminal, let's say it together again. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. Okay? Which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, and to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have assistance of counsel for his defense. Okay? These are important rights to know, all described by the Bill of Rights. I don't have any time for any more questions. Or if I do, I'll get it at the end. Okay. Okay, number 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of common law. So if a jury examines a fact and declares you innocent, you're not going to be tried again for that, which is one of the reasons why, by the way, police often take years to prepare a case, okay? Because they only get one shot. If they put you on trial for murder, let's say you committed the murder, okay? But they don't get all the evidence, and they can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in front of a jury. If the jury finds you not guilty, that's it. The more evidence comes later, you're free. So they've got to get all the evidence the first time, because no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States. Okay, that's their one shot to get the criminal. Okay. All right, number 8. Yeah, what do you want to say? Okay. Number 8, let's read this one together. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. I'm older than you, and my father was older than me, and he said when his father was young, way back, there were countries like Turkey. If you stole something, they might cut your hand off. So they can't do that in the United States. We never have. Cruel and unusual punishments are not inflicted. Yes?
What is considered excessive for bail?
There's no way you can meet. Yep.
$10 million.
Yep. Thank you. $10 million.
So $1 million is considered excessive for the average person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. $1 million is excessive for the average person. Yep. Okay, number 9. Okay. the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage other rights retained by the people. Okay? Now, I call this the Alexander Hamilton Amendment. Okay? Do you know why? Because you remember these two guys at the end of the Constitutional Convention in the summer of 1787, they said, we don't need a Bill of Rights. Well, Hamilton said, all right, if you're going to list the rights, we need to state that just because a right is not enumerated doesn't mean that you don't have it. Okay? So that's the 9th Amendment. Okay? And, okay. Oh, 10. Okay. Well, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Most, not all, but the overwhelming majority of things that the government can and should do are in Article 1, Section 8. Okay? That's most of what the government should be doing is listed there. So this is basically saying if it's not there, it's a right that's reserved to the state, which means it's reserved to the people within that state. Okay? Okay. Are there any questions on that? Okay. The first Congress, okay, which was 1790, adopted 12 amendments, well, 1789, okay. Adopted 12 amendments, which were concluded on the 25th of September of 1789, okay. The Bill of Rights was ratified almost 2 years later on the 15th of December 1791, okay. That was in the middle of the Second Congress, okay. And there have been 17 more amendments in the last 230 years, okay? So a total of 27 amendments altogether, okay? The 27th Amendment, which is the most recent one, was adopted in 1992, okay? I'm just going to mention very briefly here, it'll take about 1 more minute, the 13th Amendment. Does anybody know what that is?
Yeah.
What, Chappie?
Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. It ended slavery.
Thank you. Ended slavery, 1865. Another one that you should know is the 19th. Does anybody know what that one is? Girls? Oh, I think I heard someone say the right to vote. Ladies could vote. Okay. The 25th Amendment. You're going to hear a lot about the 25th Amendment. I guarantee you are going to hear more about the 25th Amendment in the next year and a half than any other amendment. What's the 25th Amendment? I'm not even going to tell you. You're going to have to look it up in your book. Okay? So that's the presentation on the Bill of Rights. Thank you for being at Camp Constitution. Now I'm going to ask you, who's excited about the Bill of Rights?